This program is supported by Protect Plus Gold, a broad-spectrum disinfectant, kills 99.9% of disease-causing germs and works in 10 minutes.
Hello, I'm Alma Angeles, and you're watching Eagle News International. Good evening, CJ.
Good evening, Alma, and good evening to everyone joining the broadcast. Here are tonight's headlines.
President Biden says the United States will work to finish its evacuation in Afghanistan by August 31, but he did not fully commit to a complete withdrawal.
Vice President Kamala Harris says the U.S. will find new ways to raise the pressure on Beijing, accusing China of bullying the hotly disputed Asian waters for the second time in 2 days.
Protection from 2 doses of the Pfizer and AstraZeneca vaccines wanes within less than 6 months. That is according to a study of a phone app data on Wednesday, suggesting that booster shots may be needed to ensure prolonged coverage.
And the World Bank has suspended aid to Afghanistan, saying it is deeply concerned by the situation there, especially regarding women's rights after the Taliban seized power.
President Biden says the United States will work to finish its evacuation in Afghanistan by August 31. But he didn't fully commit to a complete withdrawal. He said they need to withdraw rapidly because of a growing risk of terrorist attacks. He also said this as America and allied evacuations continued and thousands remain desperate to flee. With the pullout deadline drawing near, there were some signs of progress in the Afghan capital. Let's listen in.
We are currently on a pace to finish by August the 31st. The sooner we can finish, the better. Each day of operations brings added risk to our troops. The longer we stay, starting with the acute and growing risk of an attack by a terrorist group known as ISIS-K, an ISIS affiliate in Afghanistan, which is a sworn enemy of the Taliban as well. Every day we're on the ground is another day we know that ISIS-K is seeking to target the airport and attack both U.S. and allied forces and innocent civilians. Thus far, the Taliban have been taking steps to work with us so we can get our people out. But it's a tenuous situation. We've already had some gunfighting break out. We run a serious risk of it breaking down as time goes on. As of this afternoon, we've helped evacuate 70,700 people just since August the 14th, 75,900 people since the end of July. Just in the past 12 hours, another 19 U.S. military flights, 18 C-17s and 1 C-130 carrying approximately 6,400 evacuees, and 31 coalition flights carrying 5,600 people have left Kabul.
He said meeting the August 31 deadline was contingent upon the Taliban continuing to cooperate and allow access to the airport for those who, quote, were transporting out. European nations have said they would not be able to airlift all at-risk Afghans before the August 31 cutoff, and Biden has faced calls from all corners to extend the evacuation window. Germany said Tuesday Western allies simply cannot fly out every Afghan who needs protection before the cutoff date. Even if the evacuation goes on until August 31 or even a few days longer, it will not be enough, Foreign Minister Heiko Maas told Bild TV. France, meanwhile, said it would have to end evacuations from Kabul's airport on Thursday if the U.S. stuck to the deadline. And Spain said it would not be able to rescue all Afghans who served Spanish missions.
U.S. President Joe Biden has set an August 31st deadline to finish the chaotic airlift organized by thousands of temporarily deployed troops, but has left the door open to an extension if needed. However, a spokesman for the Taliban warned Monday the hardline Islamist group would not agree to an extension, calling the issue a red line, with any delay viewed as extending occupation. The Taliban on Tuesday urged skilled Afghans not to flee the country, as the rulers of Afghanistan warned the United States and its NATO allies that they would not accept an extension to a looming evacuation deadline.
امریکایانو لا هم هغه خپل پخوانی پالیسي ته دوام ورکړی چې خلکو ته دعوت ورکړي الوتکو ته خېزي او په نامعلوم برخلیک په لور باندې افغانان باسي له هېواده. دا زړه بګنونکې ده. په دې سره موږ د امریکایانو باندې غږ کوو په امریکایانو باندې چې خپل دغه پالیسي ته تغییر ورکړي، د افغانستان خلک تشویق نه کړي له هېواده تېښته وکړي. زموږ کدرونه، زموږ انجینران، ډاکټر صاحبان، پوهان، هغه څوک چې دلته تحصیل کړی او دا هېواد د هغو استعدادونو ته اړتیا لري، دا نه باید بهرنیو هېوادونو ته وایستل سي. هلته د دې په ځای چې دوی په تخصصي بخشونو کې خدمت وکړي، یو عادي مزدورکار په نظر به ورته کتل کېږي په غربي او ځینو نورو هېوادونو کې. دا د تاسف خبره ده. متاسفانه چې دغه ستونزه لا هم نه ده حل سوې. اسلامي امارت جدي کوشش کوي چې هلته حالت کنټرول کړي.
European nations have said they would not be able to airlift at-risk Afghans before the August 31st cutoff. And U.S. President Joe Biden has faced calls from all corners to extend the evacuation window. Even as U.S. media reported, he has decided to stick to his deadline. But speaking to the press conference, Mujahid said the Islamist group opposes an extension. More than 5,000 U.S. troops are currently on the ground in Kabul, assisting with the emergency evacuation efforts. Nearly 200 aircraft are dedicated to the evacuation effort in some capacity.
Russia's armed forces said they began evacuating more than 500 Russians and citizens of several ex-Soviet states from Afghanistan today. The evacuations were the first made public by Russia, which has taken a cautiously optimistic outlook of the new Taliban leadership in Kabul. Moscow said it sent 4 military transport planes to fly out more than 500 citizens of Russia, Belarus, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, and Ukraine. The evacuations were being organized at the behest of President Vladimir Putin and Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu, Russia's military said in a statement. Unlike Western countries, Russia has not evacuated its embassy in Kabul, having secured guarantees of the mission's protection from the militants. Last week, Russia's ambassador to Afghanistan, Dmitry Chernov, said the Taliban were engaged in restoring order in Kabul and were behaving in a responsible, civilized manner. But on Tuesday, the Kremlin suggested that some of the embassy staff's families, women and children, may have been taken out of Afghanistan. Russia in recent years has reached out to the Taliban and is seeking contact with the group to stop the instability from spilling over into Central Asia, where Moscow maintains military bases. While some countries have welcomed Afghan refugees fleeing the Taliban, Putin has warned against an influx into Russia, saying the militants could enter the country under the guise of seeking asylum.
Evacuees fleeing Afghanistan after the country fell to the Taliban arrive at Washington Dulles International Airport. Shima, a 30-year-old Afghan evacuee, tells AFP she managed to come to the U.S. with her husband, yet her daughters remain in Afghanistan. Take a look.
2 children in Afghanistan, and I am... daughter to my girl in Afghanistan, and I in America. Who leave? Who leave? I killed. I'm dead. I dead.
سلام بده الهام این طرف از یا. Goodbye.
Mic test.
Now, German, British, and French officials said Monday that evacuations on their part could continue after August 31 and said they want the U.S. force to stay in place to help the international airlift. Meanwhile, Vice President Kamala Harris said the U.S. will find new ways to raise the pressure on Beijing, again accusing China of bullying in the hotly disputed Asian waters for the second time in 2 days. Harris made these comments on a visit to Vietnam to stress U.S. commitment to Asia, a trip critics have slammed as tone-deaf given the parallels with the superpowers' evacuations from Saigon and Kabul. Take a look.
We need to find ways to pressure and raise the pressure on Beijing to abide by the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea and to challenge its bullying and excessive maritime claims. We urge Vietnam to support the joint statement of maritime principles for the Western Pacific that we have proposed. This statement will affirm our collective commitment to upholding freedom of the sea.
当前阿富汗发生的事情，清楚地告诉人们，什么是美国所讲的规则，什么是美国所谓的秩序。美国可以肆意对一个主权国家进行军事干涉，而不必为这个国家的人民所遭受的苦难负责。美方总试图拿规则、秩序为自己的自私自利和霸凌霸道行径辩护，但是现在又有几个人会相信呢？
United States Vice President Kamala Harris has landed in Vietnam after an anomalous health incident in Hanoi delayed her flight from Singapore. The U.S. Embassy said an apparent reference to the so-called Havana syndrome that has sickened diplomats in several countries. Now, Harris is in Vietnam as part of a Southeast Asia trip where she is seeking to rally regional allies as the United States superpower status takes a hit over Afghanistan. She was due to depart Singapore at around 4 p.m. or 800 GMT Tuesday, but her trip was delayed by around 3 hours. The vice president's traveling delegation was delayed from departing Singapore because the vice president's office was made aware of a report of a recent possible anomalous health incident in Hanoi, according to the U.S. Embassy in a statement. Harris senior advisor Simone Sanders told reporters the delay has nothing to do with the vice president's health. The U.S. is still unsure of what causes the so-called Havana syndrome 5 years after the first case in Cuba, when U.S. diplomats and their families complained of nosebleeds, migraines, and nausea after experiencing piercing sounds at night. Since then, similar complaints have been reported by U.S. officials in China, Russia, and inside the United States. The problem has led to unproven allegations that Russians or others used sonic or other high-intensity electronic devices to physically harm U.S. diplomats.
In Thailand, 7 police officers, including a city station commander, are accused of homicide. Now, they have warrants of arrest, and they came after a leaked video clip showed officers suffocating a suspect to death with a plastic bag. Gila Pablo for the details, joining us live. Gila?
Yes, Alma, good evening. Thai authorities on Wednesday were hunting a group of police officers wanted for allegedly suffocating a drug suspect to death with a plastic bag in an incident captured on camera. An investigation was ordered after video footage of the incident went viral on social media. The clip shows a group of men, allegedly including the chief of a district police station in northern Nakhon Sawan province, wrapping a plastic bag around the man's head while questioning him on August 5. The suspect lost his consciousness, Alma, and some officers tried to resuscitate him. Police investigating the case said the station chief is suspected of causing the man's death while trying to extract a 2 million baht, equivalent to $60,000 bribe. Nakhon Sawan Provincial Court has issued an arrest warrant for 7 police officers, with 3 charges filed, including murder by torture or cruelty. Alma, 4 policemen have been arrested so far, with the remaining 3 still on the run, including the police station chief. And as many as 13 officers could be involved in the case. Back to you, Alma.
All right, thank you very much, and looking forward to the developments on this story. Thank you, Gila.
Thank you so much also, Alma, for having me tonight. This is Gila Pablo reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand. We live in interesting times.
Meanwhile, during President Duterte's talk to the nation on Tuesday night, August 24, he confirmed that he would run for vice president in the 2022 national elections to continue his crusade against the insurgency, criminality, and illegal drugs. Take a look.
Gusto talaga ninyo? O sige. Tatakbo ako ng vice presidente. Then I will continue the crusade. I'm worried about the drugs, insurgency. Well, number 1 is insurgency. Then criminality, drugs. I may not have the power to give the direction or guidance, but I can always express my views in public for whatever it may be worth in the coming days. Nasa Pilipino na yan.
Earlier Tuesday, Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles confirmed that Duterte has accepted his nomination as the vice presidential candidate of his ruling party, the Partido Democratico Filipino Lakas ng Bayan or PDP Laban. Duterte's acceptance, Nograles said, was meant to ensure that the country's vaccination program will be sustained in the critical stage of the pandemic, where targets are steadily achieved. The PDP Laban National Executive Council, led by the party president, Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi, has issued a resolution endorsing Senator Christopher Lawrence Go and Duterte as the party's candidates for the 2022 presidential and vice presidential derbies, respectively. The Go-Duterte tandem, according to the PDP Laban's resolution, will further strengthen the gains of the current administration toward the achievement of improved quality of life for every Filipino. Go has said he would only join the presidency once Duterte agrees to be his running mate in the 2022 national elections.
And the news continues here on Eagle News. We'll be right back.
This portion is brought to you by North Luzon Express Terminal.
Mula noon hanggang ngayon, gabay natin ang MTRCB ratings sa matalino at responsableng panonood. Sa tamang pagsunod sa MTRCB ratings, ginagawa nating ligtas at makabuluhan ang panonood ng bawat miyembro ng pamilyang Pilipino. Lumipas man ang panahon, hanggang may pamilyang Pilipino, andyan ang MTRCB.
Arnie Aquino here at Hatley Castle, one of the filming locations for the X-Men series. Don't forget to tune in to Digital Nest only on Net25.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business.
Your weekly dose of entrepreneurial inspiration
to update you on the latest developments in the world of business. Get up close and personal with CEOs and thought leaders to help you discover valuable insights. Sharpen your instincts for smart decision-making with the latest markets and economic trends, disruptive ideas, global innovation,
social entrepreneurship,
and other leading-edge business ideas. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business, from vision to action.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced, eagle news, because we live in interesting times.
Hello everyone, I'm Jono Hilario. Please catch me on Letters and Music on air and online on August 28th, Saturday from 1 to 2 p.m. only on Net 25.
Tropical cyclone o bagyo. Ang bagyo ay isang uri ng lagay na panahon na nagdudulot ng malalakas at mabibilis na hangin at pag-ulan na maaaring maging sanhi ng matitinding pagbaha, daluyong ng dagat at pagguho ng lupa. Narito ang mga dapat gawin bago dumating ang bagyo. Una, alamin ang balita ukol sa panahon at mga anunsong pangkaligtasan. Alamin ang plano ng komunidad sa pagbibigay babala at paglikas. Suriin ang bahay at kumpunihin ang mga mahina at sirang bahagi. Ihanda ang go bag na naglalaman ng mga pangangailangan ng pamilya. Ilikas ang mga alagang hayop sa ligtas na lugar. Kapag inabisuhan ang kinauukulan, mabilis na lumikas sa itinakdang evacuation center. Narito naman ang mga dapat gawin habang may bagyo. Una, maging mahinahon. Manatili sa loob ng bahay o evacuation center at makinig sa pinakabagong balita at taya ng panahon. Patayin ang main switch ng kuryente at valve ng tubig. Gumamit ng flashlight o emergency lamp. Maging maingat sa paggamit ng kandila o gasera. Umiwas sa mga salaming bintana. Ito naman ang dapat gawin pagkatapos ng bagyo. Hintayin ang abiso ng kinauukulan na ligtas ng bumalik sa tahanan. Umiwas sa mga natumbang puno, nasirang gusali at linya ng kuryente. Huwag gumala upang hindi maabala ang mga emergency services. Siguraduhing walang basa o nakababad na outlet o kagamitan bago buksan ang linya ng kuryente. Itapon ang mga naipong tubig sa lata, paso at gulong upang hindi pamahayan ng lamok.
Hello there. Imagine Dami got the virus, and she infected 2 more. And those 2 infected a lot more of people. And it goes on and on until it became an epidemic. But what if Dami stayed at home? Then those 2 wouldn't have contracted the virus. then those people would have not been infected. This is not just your battle, it's everyone's, and you can be a huge help. Follow social distancing, or better yet, stay at home.
Sila ang mga kinikilalang bayaning may mahalagang papel para makamit ang kalayaan at pagbabago sa Pilipinas. Pero sa panahong ito, may mga bagong bayaning nakikipaglaban sa sakit na lumaganap sa buong daigdig, ang COVID-19. Ang ating mga frontliner, gaya ng healthcare workers, mga doktor, nurses, medical technologists, at iba pang health professionals, mga pulis, sundalo, security guards, mga tauhan na nangangalaga sa seguridad at mahahalagang pangangailangan ng bawat komunidad. Ang mga bagong bayani, ating pasalamatan, kilalanin ang kanilang sakripisyo at serbisyo para sa lahat.
Welcome back. Protection from 2 doses of the Pfizer and AstraZeneca vaccines wanes within less than 6 months. That is according to a study of phone app data suggesting that booster shots may be needed to ensure prolonged coverage. The latest finding comes as several countries are rolling out additional jabs for the fully vaccinated, a move slammed by the World Health Organization as millions in the world have yet to receive a single dose. The Pfizer jab was 88% effective a month after the second dose, but protection fell to 74% after 5 to 6 months, according to this latest analysis of data from the Zoe COVID study. Now, the study uses real-world data gathered via a mobile phone app with over 1 million active users who log details on their vaccinations and test results, which is then analyzed by researchers, including scientists at King's College London. The study drew on more than 1.2 million test results and participants. Protection from the AstraZeneca vaccine, meanwhile, fell from 77% 1 month after a second dose to 67% after 4 to 5 months. The lead scientist on the Zoe app, Professor Tim Spector, said that more data was needed on how vaccine effectiveness changes in different age groups.
In other news, Japan is expanding a state of emergency to more prefectures to stem a rapid rise in coronavirus infections. Here's Dennis Liu for the details.
Japan has expanded a virus state of emergency to 8 more regions a day after the Paralympic opening ceremony, as rising infections put hospitals under pressure. The country has been recording more than 20,000 new infections a day in recent weeks. And in urban areas like Tokyo, patients in serious condition have been left waiting for hours or traveling long distances in ambulances to find available hospital beds. Government spokesman Katsunobu Kato said a panel of experts had approved a plan to place 8 more regions under the emergency already in place in 13 areas, including Tokyo. The measure largely limits the sale of alcohol by restaurants and bars and asks them to close early, while urging the public to work from home and avoid non-urgent outings. The government also plans to bring 4 other regions under a less strict measure that already affects 8 regions. In all, the planned move will mean 33 of Japan's 47 regions are under heightened anti-infection rules as the country hosts the Paralympics after the Olympics. Organizers say their countermeasures have stopped infection spreading from participants to the Japanese public. But some experts argue holding the event has undermined government messaging on the virus and encouraged people to go out. The step comes with summer school holidays ending and top infection experts suggesting delay the start of classes to reduce infection risks. A top advisor to the government on the virus told lawmakers Wednesday that municipalities should be able to consider extending the summer vacation for school children to prevent infections. The government has so far ruled out blanket school closure and is proceeding with a vaccination program that began slowly but has picked up speed, with around 40% of the population now fully inoculated. So far, Japan has recorded around 15,500 deaths in the pandemic. This is the latest for now. Reporting from Tokyo, Japan, this is Dennis Liu. We live in interesting times.
A nighttime curfew was extended for a second time that was imposed on the tourist hotspot in Spain's region of Catalonia to fight a surge in coronavirus infections. Here's Beverly Madrid for the report.
A nighttime curfew was extended for a second time that was imposed on the tourist hotspot in Spain's region of Catalonia to fight COVID-19 surge. A Catalan court approved the regional government's petition to extend the nocturnal curfew between 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. in 163 municipalities. This includes Barcelona and popular beach resorts such as Sitges and Salou. The measure was imposed in the northwestern part of Catalonia bordering France in mid-July, and this is the second time that it is extended, which will start on July 30th. Catalonia has the highest COVID-19 infection rate in Spain. The region had implemented other virus restrictions, such as limiting social gatherings in public and private to 10 people. Catalonia hospitals are saturated due to a surge in infections, with 45% of the region's hospital beds occupied by COVID-19 patients compared to 17% nationally. Several other regions, including Andalusia in the south and the Balearic Islands in the Mediterranean, have also reimposed limits on nightlife to fight a rise in infections driven by Delta, the highly contagious variant of the virus. According to Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez, a certain stabilization in the infection curve has started to be visible as Spain's infection rate per 100,000 population over 14 days stabilized at nearly 700, a level about 5 times higher than it was a month ago, while in a hard-hit Catalonia it stands above 1,000. Spain's vaccination rollout has accelerated, and the country has one of Europe's highest COVID-19 immunization rates, with 66% of its population having had at least one dose. Reporting from Barcelona, Spain, I'm Beverly Madrid. We live in interesting times.
Meanwhile, here now is Alfred Asenas from our EBC Hawaii Pacific with the latest news from his part of the world.
Aloha, I'm Alfred Asenas, and this is the latest from Hawaii and the Pacific.
We're canceling all large gatherings, and that includes University of Hawaii, as far as the football team and women's volleyball.
Starting August 25, all large organized gatherings throughout the island of Oahu will be suspended for 28 days through September 22 in order to slow the surge of new COVID-19 cases that have numbered in the high 100s.
So to give a perspective on that, people have been submitting, per the governor's proclamation, they've been submitting mitigation plans, which we have been agreeing to. We had some 180 plans that really were about to happen, that were like over 50 people, over 200, over 500, over 1,000, extensive plans. And we understand that there's an economic impact to that as well.
Social gatherings will be limited only to 10 people indoors and 25 outdoors. Examples of affected events include trade shows, conventions, concerts, and sports tournaments. Other activities such as recreational sports, restaurants, and spiritual services will be allowed to continue while complying with the latest health and safety guidelines.
Blaisdell, obviously, Waikiki Shell, and any other venues that we can control. And so the thought there is that we feel that that's really the major source of communal spread. And at the same time, we're obviously urging everyone to be vaccinated.
Although Kilauea volcano on Big Island is not erupting, the U.S. Geological Survey's Hawaiian Volcano Observatory has raised the alert level from yellow to orange after more than 100 earthquakes have been recorded since August 23. The strongest tremor so far was a magnitude 3.3, with the majority of earthquakes being less than magnitude 1. Yet still, small earthquakes are continuing at a rate of at least 10 detected per hour. Scientists continue to monitor the situation. 2 passenger aircraft from Hawaiian Airlines are assisting in the evacuation of American citizens and other designated persons out of Afghanistan in the aftermath of the country's recent takeover by the Taliban. Hawaiian and 5 other U.S. carriers are part of the military's Civil Reserve Air Fleet, or CRAF, which was activated on August 22. According to the Department of Defense, the civilian aircraft will not fly into the capital city of Kabul. Instead, they will be used for the onward movement of passengers from temporary safe havens and interim staging bases outside of Afghanistan.
From Honolulu, Hawaii, we live in interesting times.
Immunocompromised patients receive a booster shot of the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine at the community pharmacy at Hartford Healthcare Hospital in Connecticut 1 week after the Biden administration announced plans to make a booster shot immediately available for immunocompromised individuals and recommended all vaccinated people get a 3rd shot 8 months after their 2nd. Take a look.
Right now with the Delta variant, it seems that the majority of the people who are getting sick or the sickest are ones who have not even been vaccinated yet. And the ones who are getting sick who've been vaccinated, it doesn't seem to be as serious. So obviously the vaccination works, and I think a booster is a great idea.
So the booster shots have been FDA approved for all patients who have a compromised immune system. What that means is if you are a patient who has cancer and undergoing active chemotherapy, you are a transplant patient, heart, lung, liver, kidney transplant on anti-rejection medicines for the rest of your life, or a bone marrow transplant patient who's getting active treatment, or on a prednisone, a dose of 20 milligrams or more. Those are the patients we need to keep protected as the Delta variant, goes full speed ahead in our country.
Now, for the 3rd booster dose, what you want to do is stay within the same series. So if you got Pfizer for your primary series, you'd ideally like to get that for your booster. If you got Moderna, ideally you would get that for your booster. Unfortunately, there isn't guidance yet for J&J, and we hope to see that soon. If the same vaccine that you got for your primary series is not available, then you could potentially use another one of the mRNA vaccines, so Pfizer and Moderna potentially only.
The United States authorized an extra dose of COVID-19 vaccine for people with weakened immune systems as the country struggles to thwart the Delta variant. Emergency use authorization for a 3rd injection of Pfizer-BioNTech and Moderna vaccines was granted by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration regulator. The FDA said the additional dose was for solid organ transplant recipients or those with equivalent weakened immune systems. Earlier this month, the U.S. rejected an appeal from the World Health Organization for a moratorium on booster shots to help ease the drastic inequity in dose distribution between rich and poor nations.
Meanwhile, Israel lowered the age threshold to receive a third coronavirus booster dose to anyone aged 30 and above as it continues to battle surging infections. Israel is among a handful of nations that has decided to administer a third vaccine dose, a policy criticized by the World Health Organization, which has called for more doses to be sent to poorer states. But Israel's health ministry announced the lowered age threshold after 9,831 new cases were registered on Monday, the highest daily tally since January. Prime Minister Naftali Bennett has argued that given Israel's relatively small population, its booster shot program would not affect global stocks, but would provide quick data on the effectiveness of a third dose, aiding the global pandemic fight. Now on Tuesday, he described Israel as the global pioneers regarding the third dose of the vaccine.
Meanwhile, Manila Mayor Francisco Isko Moreno Domagoso was discharged from the Santa Ana Hospital today after recovering from the coronavirus disease. Take a look. Manila Public Information Chief Julius Leonen said the mayor is tagged as recovered by the Santa Ana Hospital. On August 15, the mayor said he tested positive for COVID-19 and was immediately admitted to Santa Ana Hospital. This was a week after Vice Mayor Hani Lacuna Pangan also tested positive for the deadly virus. Pangan was discharged from the hospital on August 19. From the hospital, Mayor Domagoso will still self-isolate for about 3 more days, according to Leonen. As of noon today, the local government of Manila reported 242 new cases of COVID-19, bringing to 1,578 the total number of active cases in the city.
In other news, at least 15 people died in the Venezuelan Andes after heavy rains triggered mud and rock slides, according to authorities. Several hours of downpours in the Mocotes Valley, a farming region in western Merida State that attracts a lot of tourists, caused boulders to tumble down mountainsides, blocking off roads. Merida Governor Ramon Guevara said the Mocotes River had burst its banks and flooded Tovar, which has been cut off from electricity and telephone coverage. Heavy rains have also hit other parts of Venezuela, including the capital, Caracas. Speaking on national television, President Maduro said that over 35,000 people have been affected by the rains across the country, with over 8,000 homes destroyed. Now, the Government Meteorological Institute has warned that 6 rivers reversed their banks, while 3 states, Bolivar, Guarico, and Zulia, are on red alerts.
Wildfires, mostly started intentionally, have scorched almost 600,000 hectares of land in eastern Bolivia already this year, according to authorities. On Monday night, there were 20 active fires in Santa Cruz State, affecting 7 protected areas. Most of the fires are in the forest of Chiquitania, a region that lies between the Amazon to the north, the plains of Caco to the south, and the Pantanal, the world's largest wetland, to the southeast. The San Matias Nature Reserve, a national park the size of Belgium, is one of the worst affected areas. Environmentalists blame laws enacted under former leftist President Evo Morales, who for years encouraged burning of forest and pasture land to expand agricultural production. The practice is legal in Bolivia for areas of up to 20 hectares between May and July, once the rainy season is over.
In other news, Russia's central regions on Wednesday battled extreme wildfires fueled by an unusual heat wave that comes after forest fires linked to climate change ravaged Siberia for most of the summer. Authorities were fighting 15 wildfires in the Urals region of Sverdlovsk. The Emergencies Ministry said in a report, the region, which lies on the border of Europe and Asia, faced extreme fire hazard due to a heat wave, it added. Fires had meanwhile grown to intense or so intense in Mordovia a region southeast of Moscow. That firefighters were forced to escape from a ring of fire, according to the ministry. And in Nizhny Novgorod region east of Moscow, 9 planes provided by the Emergencies Ministry, the Defense Ministry, and the Russian National Guard had dropped 129 tons of water onto a large wildfire spreading to neighborhood Mordovia. President Vladimir Putin on Tuesday pledged hundreds of millions of dollars to protect the country's forests, saying the nation must learn from the unprecedented wildfires that engulfed swathes of Siberia. News will be back with more stories. Please don't go away.
Protect yourself and loved ones. Use Protect Plus Gold, a broad-spectrum disinfectant that kills 500 strains of bacteria, fungi, and viruses such as coronavirus and other disease-causing microorganisms. Also potent against viruses in pets. It kills 99.9% of disease-causing germs and works in 10 minutes. Dissolve 1 teaspoon in 1 liter of water. Apply on areas for disinfection or use it for misting. Protect Plus Gold.
Miss na kita ha. Ilang araw na tayong di nagkikita, baby. Miss na kita ha. Huwag ka nang magalit sa akin, baby. Halika na dito.
Hello guys, this is Martin Venegas. Please catch me on Letters and Music on air and online this coming Sunday, August 29, 1 to 2 p.m. only here at Net 25. See ya!
Welcome back. The World Bank has suspended aid to Afghanistan, saying it is deeply concerned by the situation there, especially regarding women's rights after the Taliban seized power, according to a bank spokesperson. Now, the World Bank has more than 24 development projects ongoing in the country and has provided $5.3 billion since 2002, mostly in grants, according to the bank's website. The World Bank held off on making a statement until it had pulled all of its personnel out of the country, an operation completed on Friday, according to the bank source. The spokesperson said the development lender will continue to consult closely with the international community and development partners. Washington also last week announced it would deny the Taliban access to the country's gold and cash reserves, most of which are held overseas. The International Monetary Fund also suspended operations with the country, including an existing $370 million loan program, as well as $340 million Kabul was due to receive from Monday's release of special drawing rights, the lender's basket of currencies.
Even in the midst of a pandemic, direct flights between the Philippines and Israel might still proceed by the fourth quarter this year through the Philippine Airlines or PAL, according to the Israeli embassy on Wednesday. It's already scheduled even during the pandemic. PAL was still insisting on having those flights. The new goal is to have them in October. I think that was the PAL's plan. Embassy Charles d'Affaires Mir Balsam has said in a virtual forum. However, there is still no way of knowing when inbound tourism travel will be allowed following the spike in its COVID-19 cases. But the deployment of Filipino caregivers to Israel under a Philippine-Israel bilateral labor agreement will continue. Last July, 48 out of the 377 caregivers who were supported were finally able to fly to Israel.
Russia revealed Tuesday it postponed its first mission to the moon's surface in decades as a result of problems encountered during tests of the Luna 25 spacecraft. The country's space agency Roscosmos announced last week that the mission, originally scheduled for October 1 from the Vostochny Cosmodrome in the Far East, had been moved to May 2022. The Luna 25 mission to the moon's south pole aims to probe ice deposits there, and it's set to be Russia's first mission to the moon's surface in 45 years and the first in its post-Soviet history. The chief engineer of Russia's State Info Lavachkin Design Bureau explained the delay Tuesday, saying that more time was needed to complete successful trials. He said, "We have encountered certain problems during testing." This is according to Alexander Shirshkov during he told this to the Interfax news agency.
In other news, Russia revealed it postponed its, first mission to the moon's surface in decades as a result of problems encountered. And now, first in our sports news, Australian cyclist Paige Greco scooped the first gold medal of the Tokyo Paralympics as the sport got underway a day after a high-energy but poignant opening ceremony. Now, despite a year-long postponement and with a shadow of COVID-19 hanging over the event, records began falling almost immediately in both cycling and swimming as the competition heated up. Greco took gold in record-breaking fashion in track cycling's C1, C3 class 3,000-meter individual pursuit, beating China's Wang Xiaomei. The Australian had smashed her own world record by nearly 8 seconds to qualify fastest from the morning heats. She then lowered that time by another second and a half to 3 minutes, 50.81 seconds in the final just over 2 hours later. Silver medalist Wang, who had also beaten Greco's old world record in the heats, had no answer to the Australian's power, finishing more than 4 seconds adrift.
And finally, in our news, MJ Rocadio, our EBC correspondent in LA, was able to talk to ex-footballer and film star Matt William Knowles. This in his latest showbiz news. Take a look.
Your experience in China, being a movie star. Now, let's talk about your role in Son of the South.
All right. Well, I did this great film called Son of the South. It's about the Freedom Riders, set in 1961. It goes around these events that happened in Montgomery, Alabama, where the Freedom Riders bus was attacked. And I can say, without a doubt, it's the most important film that I've done. I play Jim Zwerg in the film, who's a very iconic hero of the civil rights movement. He and John Lewis were best friends, sat on the bus together, and were beaten close to death. And that incident of them getting beaten and it getting filmed, or there were photographs of it happening, and it kind of went viral at the time all over the world. And it really put faces to the civil rights movement at the time, and really kind of started or continued a huge momentum of pushing for civil rights, and equality during the time. So it was a very, very important event that happened before I was born.
That I know you stayed in China and also you visited the Philippines. What's your memorable moment in the Philippines?
So many memorable moments in the Philippines, Everything is better in the Philippines. I tell everyone that I meet that the most beautiful place in the world is El Nido in Palawan.
Yes.
I spent Chinese New Year there one year. It is the most gorgeous, crystal clear waters you've ever seen. The people are so nice. It's just paradise. I can't describe it any other way. I've been to a lot of islands around the world, and El Nido is by far the best.
How did you, get to China to become a movie star?
Well, I didn't go there to be a movie star. Basically, I was injured playing football in the U.S. It ended my dreams of going to the NFL. And I just decided I wanted to go somewhere in the world and help people who needed help. And a buddy of mine, a football buddy, called me up. He said, I'm in backwards China teaching English in one of the poorest areas. Do you want to come out here? I said, sure. So I went out there for a year, started learning the language, came back a second year. And I eventually learned some Chinese songs. And I went to a karaoke hall one day and I sang a song and got discovered as a singer in China. And that one thing led to another. And then I eventually started doing film and TV and went back to school there at Beijing Film Academy and changed my life, opened up these new doors to being an actor.
Until next time, just tune in to Eagle News. MJ Ricardo here. We live in interesting times.
Thanks, MJ.
Days of a former athlete.
Yes.
And
former footballer, yeah.
And that's it for tonight's broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us. The news continues tomorrow. I'm CJ Hero.
And at the end of the day, there remains so much more to be grateful for. We'll see you back tomorrow. But before I go, I was just reminded to please read this for our friends, our sisters and brothers in Pangasinan. Iniimbitahan po namin kayo na panoorin ang Hanggang sa Huling Hininga. Oh, there you go. Entry po ng Lingayen, Pangasinan in Cinema 2021. Let's go and watch that. All right. Thank you very much, CJ, for tonight. And the news continues tomorrow. We'll see you back. I'm Alma Angeles, and we live in interesting times.
This program is supported by Protect Plus Gold, a broad-spectrum disinfectant, kills 99.9% of disease-causing germs and works in 10 minutes.